Good morning, everyone. Jesus, prayer, please.
Heavenly Father, we want to take this moment to pause and thank you for all that you have on a daily basis. We pray as always as we move forward that we make wise decisions, that you'll bless this board, employees of this county, that you'll continue to keep us safe as we forgive us for sins. In Christ's name.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lance, could you do the roll call?
I'm going to switch up your order, guys, just let you know. Commissioner Harville?
Here.
Commissioner Foster?
Here.
Commissioner Miller?
Here.
Commissioner Pitts?
Yeah.
Commissioner Gould?
Having the quorum, I'll call the meeting to order. First thing, approval of minutes. I'm gonna do these separate, Lance, because I wasn't at the one, so I'm gonna abstain on that.
Okay.
Had regular minutes from the meeting on May 28th. Anybody have any additions or corrections?
Commissioner Harville?
Yes.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Abstain.
Commissioner Pitts?
Yes.
Commissioner Gould?
Regular meet staff's doing a good job taking care of everything. All the bugs and everything out there, but doing a good job. I think the court case is still pending.
Yeah, court case is still pending on that, yeah.
Anybody else? Building permits, any?
No.
All right. Old business, ordinance pertaining to animal control and so forth, it's still in the state's attorney's hands, so we'll table that. Continue to table it. All right, new business, approved payment of bills. Everybody had a chance to look at the bill list.
I make a motion to pay our bills.
Second.
1 second. Pitts and Foster? Okay. They made a motion, okay. Sorry. Commissioner Harville?
Yes.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Pitts?
Yes.
Commissioner Gould?
Okay, item B, acceptance of the FY 2020 Union County audit. Please. Okay.
All right, so I think Angie touched base with you guys that we won't be presenting the full final audit today, but we'll have that ready Monday. And she'll be able to get you an electronic copy. We can send you bound copies
So
as well.
let me interrupt you there. So since that's the case, we won't be voting on accepting it. We're just going to present it and get the final copy.
Yep, so I'll summarize, I'll do a high overview if you have any questions. And again, once you get the audit, if you have any questions, once you receive it, we'll be happy to talk about those. So first of all, I just want to thank everybody. My name is Anna Cadmus. I'm a manager with Stickage, and Chad Lucas is the partner on the job. I want to thank you for the opportunity to do the audit and for all of the hard work, especially from Angie, who helps us out quite a bit. So in front of you, you should have a summary of the audit, starting with the reports that we will issue. The first one is the annual financial report. That will include an unmodified opinion, which means that we materially believe that the financial statements are properly presented. And then we'll also have our report on internal control, which I'll get into a little bit further in the discussion. We will also issue the financial compliance audit of the clerk of the circuit court's fiduciary fund, also an unmodified opinion in that report. And we noted no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. We have the auditor's communication to the county board and management, which I will go into further. And then we have the annual financial report that's going to be filed with the state comptroller and the Illinois Grant Accountability and Transparency Act report, which we will also file. So I will touch base on the findings throughout our audit. The first few are going to be included in our auditor's report on internal control. So these are what we call material weaknesses and significant deficiencies. They're a higher level finding than some of the comments that I'll go over here in a few minutes. The first material weakness is internal control over financial reporting. So that is a repeated comment from prior years. That just means we did find material audit adjustments during our audit, and we corrected those with Angie's agreement. That being said, we did go from 39 adjustments in the prior year to about 33 this year. So there's been improvements on those adjustments, and we'll continue to work with the county and with Angie to help her make those adjustments herself prior to the audit so that we don't audit them or adjust them during the audit. The next finding is a material weakness over internal controls regarding ambulance charges and write-offs. So this is repeated. Last year it was included as a deficiency. This year we have it listed as a material weakness. There's a few items here that went into this material weakness, one of them being a segregation of duties issue at the ambulance department regarding individuals who are able to prepare bills, collect money, record the transactions, and also modify bills and record write-offs. So we recommend that those duties are segregated. That being said, I believe going forward in this fiscal year that you have outsourced some of that billing. So I think that issue should hopefully clear up for the most part in the next audit cycle. There were also some issues noted as far as write-offs of receivables being performed without approval or knowledge by the county board. So we did find some errors in some of the write-offs that resulted in an adjustment, and so we would just recommend that the county board is aware of those write-offs and providing oversight. Currently, or at least during the fiscal year, the county administrator and the county board were not receiving information on the receivables and the outstanding bills for the ambulance department. You operate on a cash basis, so you're seeing those receipts being recorded as they come in, but there's an amount of receivables that are outstanding that we recommend that the county board get reporting on at their meetings. And then there should also be a formal policy to estimate the amount of ambulance charges that are considered uncollectible. So we're working with ENG on that, on determining what the methodology could be for that uncollectible balance, and we will make sure that that gets recorded for the FY20 audit. The next item is a significant deficiency. It's a repeated finding from last year of inadequate time and attendance reporting. This is really just related to the decentralization of timekeeping and tracking of compensatory time. So we just recommend that there is a centralization of that. And again, the county has been working on a time clock system that should assist in having that happen. There were a couple items that were not repeated at the level of a significant deficiency or a material weakness. So that is the inadequate bank reconciliation procedures and the inadequate controls over fines and fees assessed by the court. So instead of saying those are significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, we have dropped them down to just a control deficiency this year, which means there have been improvements on those two areas. That being said, do you have any questions over those first few items before I get into our other recommendations and comments? Okay. So the next few items, like I said, are things that we consider less severe than significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, but that we still feel are important to report to the board. So the first here are control deficiencies. The first item is capital assets. So during the year, there was a policy passed, so we did not repeat the findings there. But we do recommend now that the policy has been passed, that it's implemented, and that the county centrally track all the capital assets that are purchased and disposed of during the year. We have a repeated finding for timely cash deposits in the county clerk office, and I think that's pretty specific to a couple types of deposits where they're not being deposited as frequently as they should be. And then the bank reconciliation comment was significant deficiency last year. There has been a lot of cleanup done in the bank rec process. There's been a lot more approvals that we can see, and the only item we really noted this year was a little bit of an untimely bank rec process at year end. So that was due to some cleanup they were trying to get done. And so as those outstanding items continue to get cleaned up, those should be able to be done more timely. And on the final page, we have a few more advisory comments, which are mainly policy related for the most part. These are all repeated from the prior year: fund balance policy, accounting procedures manual. So those are both items that we recommend that you guys have in place. We also noted some unclaimed property, which is just checks older than 3 years that should be turned over to the state treasurer. Hotel and motel tax audits, we recommend that you look at the tax returns and audit those that are coming in to make sure that the taxpayers are assessing themselves correctly, and that their policy currently states that there would be late fees charged, but that's not currently happening, so we recommend that either you change the policy or the late fees are charged. The next item is the proper assessment of fines and fees by the circuit clerk's office. And so this year, we only noted one case that was not in compliance with the statute. Specific to this case, it was based on the judicial order from the judge to charge a certain amount. That being said, once the judge enters the order, the circuit clerk's office does not have the ability to change that amount. But for our required audit procedures, we have to audit in accordance with the statute. So while you'll find that instance of non-compliance noted in the circuit clerk report, it is not something specific to what the circuit clerk's office had control over. It's much more specific to what the judge ordered, and that not being in compliance with the statute. And the last comment here is just over an information technology standards, policies, and procedures manual. So you guys did implement disaster recovery and backup policy during the year, so that's not repeated. You entered, as I said, the capital asset policy is not repeated. We did not repeat the comment regarding the circuit clerk bank accounts not maintained in the accounting system. I think the circuit clerk's office has worked really hard to get Angie the information she needs to properly track that account activity, which has been a great improvement. And we did not repeat the finding regarding personnel files. It was just during some of our testing in prior years, we noted that there were some incomplete files, but I believe that you guys have been working to really make sure that those have all the information they should. So that's all the advisory comments. The last part is just a couple future accounting pronouncements that will impact the county, one of them being GASB 84 over fiduciary activities. We'll work with Angie on that. That one's pretty complex as far as the changing of how your agency funds will be reported. And that'll be effective your next fiscal year. And then GASB 87 over leases is effective the year after.
What kind of leases?
So you guys mainly have capital leases, so there shouldn't be a huge impact. That specific GASB pronouncement is more going to impact operating leases, and I don't think you have many of those. So it's not going to have a huge effect.
Unfortunately, we are, a small county with not unlimited resources, but a lot of the deficiencies are basically
budgets as far as personnel. I think what we look for is improvement and active improvements on trying to make things get rid of these findings, and I think that you guys show that you are actively working through these items. So I think that that's what we really ask for as auditors is we're willing to help as much as you guys want, and we like to see when counties like to implement what we recommend. So I think each year has gotten better since our first year of the auditors, and we'll continue to do so. So if there's anything on here that you would like help implementing, you can always tell us, we can assist if it's a policy example or if it's a recommendation on how to specifically implement one of our recommendations, and definitely assist with that.
I think it, like you said in the beginning, every year we've gotten better and better. But there's always going to be something on there, I'm sure. But, just like the ambulance service, we're in the process of making that a whole lot better. It's just, and it was a keystroke error on part of that.
Yeah.
So, overall, I'd like to say thank you to all the department heads and the board and everyone else that keeps making this get better and better. Special thanks to Angie, the hours and hours and hours she puts in on this every year.
I'd like to agree with that. Being a banker for 35 years, audits are a normal way of life.
Yeah.
You guys are always going to find things.
Yes.
There's no question. And
Yeah.
so it's the ones that are not significant that are the ones you can write all of the ones you want that are
Yeah.
minor in nature.
Yeah, I agree with your thinking, Angie. Like I said, we've been in frequent contact over the past few months. She's been a great help as well as all of the departments here. And we really believe that where we add value is by recommending items for you guys. We could just give you financial statements and not worry about the recommendations and things like that, but we think that's where we add value as auditors, so.
So we'll leave that as is until we get the final copy.
Yes, yeah, you'll have to do it at your next meeting or something to be able to prove it. But I just want to say with regards to the ambulance one, Obviously, we hope there's never keying mistakes, but there was this time. However, over the last week, so as you know, we're now outsourcing the billing to A&B. Prior to that, we were using a software called Harrison. So over the last week, we have sat down or talked to the Harrison rep. He has shown Lindsay in the office how to run all kinds of reports. She's pulled me reports. We're going to be able to identify those key mistakes easily now, the big ones especially. And then she now knows, she can run the AR reports for us and the write-off reports and all that. So you guys will be getting a lot more reporting from the ambulance department. For right now, you'll be getting reports from the old system and then reports from the new billing company. So, and then like Anna said, with regards to using the new company now, we do have a lot of the segregation of duties because they are the ones billing. It's a completely different company that's doing the collections. So they're all collecting. Our employees are not doing any of that. And then it is my understanding, and Grant, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but as far as write-offs go, the collection companies will send us a list of people after they've tried to collect for so long, and then we will have to go through the list and either approve to write them off or approve to send them to court, or you will actually see it all. So unfortunately, this has to be in here because it was for fiscal year 20, but I think for fiscal year 21, unbeknownst to this going to be in there, we had already fixed the stuff that's going to be there. And so now, and she can, like I said, pull all the reports. So I think we'll be good on that one next year. You guys know about the time and attendance. We've been working on it. We've got almost everybody now clocking in, clocking out, almost every department. Angela's working on compensated absences to get them in there.
Disappear next year.
Yes. So those will be there. Your first one there, that's about the fine and material adjustments. You will probably have that for a while because we have a lot of funds and a lot of entries. So
yeah, it's a very common one with, except the number of funds and like you said, the number of entries, that's a pretty common one with most of our counties. So, but we'll keep working. Angie and I are working together, discussing the adjustments that we're making to make sure that we're on the same page and just minimizing those every year.
Thank you for your work, because I think since next you were here when she was hired, this is the first, their firm is the first that's ever actually made presentations, correct?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, well, like I said, we appreciate the opportunity.
There was presentations, but not to the letter, so.
yeah, they've been great. And like she said, the recommendations that they make are valid recommendations. It's not just nitpicking or anything, and we work to actually fix them and implement them, and they're helping our county out a lot.
We'll table acceptance of the 2020 Union County audit until next meeting.
The issue at my office, we're gonna work on, get that fixed, it's just getting timely deposits in. It's kind of, have to change our system up, but I don't think it's a big deal, but we'll get there for that, so.
Can I have an opportunity to respond?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're not presenting anything on the circuit clerk separately, right? Because it's that one item.
I included it in here. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So Carrie wants to talk about it.
Yeah, just for a minute. Thanks, Anna, for all your hard work. We appreciate it. I don't think anybody likes when the people come in their office and they tell them we did something wrong. But I wanted to address the finding for the circuit clerk's office today because it's something that we're seeing over time. It's happened in previous administrations, and I anticipate that it will happen in administrations far after mine. And let me explain to you why. And I think the people of Union County, as well as the board, need to understand that finding. A lot of what happens with the circuit clerk's office is people just don't really understand in layman's terms what we do and how it's done. So when you find an audit finding like that, you immediately think the circuit clerk's office isn't doing what they're supposed to do. Because that really is how that is, it implies that. But I need to explain to you why that's not true for future reference. So as many of you may or may not know, 2019, you passed an ordinance that basically lays out how we assess fines and fees based on a crime. So what that means is it says, hey, listen, if you do a felony DUI in Union County, the statute in Illinois says that you have to have you have to charge them $1,709. And it goes so far as to say, if you collect $1,709, we give it to certain people. We allocate that money a certain way. It's all in a document that you guys created, and it mirrors what is in the statute mandated by the Supreme Court in Illinois. So you did your due diligence. But what happens is, if the John Doe's driving drunk, felony DUI in Union County, and he gets a ticket and he comes to court. The state's attorney's office creates a document that says, John Doe, you are guilty. You created that. And he also has a financial sentencing order. And in that financial sentencing order, he pops in John Doe, DUI, felony. And it'll say what amount of money the guy should be charged. They take the document and they bring it in front of the judge, and the judge takes a look at it and he goes over it with John Doe. He says, hey, John, you're gonna owe us $1,709. Let's say the guy says, I don't have $1,700. I can pay $100. The state's attorney does a little negotiation and he says, listen, all right, we're gonna give him the felony DUI. He gets $100. We're gonna assess $100. Judge says fine, agrees to it. John Doe says fine, agrees to it. And he changes the financial sentencing document and it says $100 for the felony DUI. Judge signs it. It's now in order. Order shows up in my office. My staff gets it. They take a look at it. I say, that's not $1,700. That's $100. I can go up to the judge or the state's attorney and say, hey, this doesn't fit the assessment schedule. And they can go, okay. Because they have the right. That's their authorities. And we are keepers of records. We are not creators of records. So if a judge and a state's attorney at any time, at any case in point, the one that was brought up in this particular audit, says, we're gonna not give that guy that, we're gonna make him pay $100 instead of $1,600. He can do that. And all I can do is process the $100 and put it where it's supposed to go based on that assessment schedule as laid out in your ordinance, which tells me what to do and is in my computer system. So here's the reason I have a real issue with this, and I've spoken at length to the auditors, and I actually was in training most of this week up in Springfield and talked to the AOIC, which is the representative organization for the Supreme Court. I will continue to contend that you cannot hit an office for a behavior that they do not have control of. We don't have control of it. So I can't tell a judge to change it, and I can't go in and automatically change it so that it complies with a statute. It's not within the purview of my office's relegated authority. So we will see this. Now, I will say that I have, in my short tenure, gone up to the state's attorney's office on several occasions and talked to judges and state's attorneys and said, hey, listen, this is wrong. And they said, well, that was part of the plea deal. That's all I can do. Limits my authority. So you will see this. It's going to happen next year. It'll probably happen 5 years from now. So I want the public and the board to know that we should put that to rest because it was part of the administration's. I will say this, that I do appreciate the work that Emily in my office has done as a bookkeeper. This audit is very clean. As far as how we allocate the money we do get and the way that the orders are written, my team, or our team, is doing an excellent job in doing that portion of our work, and they deserve some credit for that because they did a great job last year. We've seen absolute improvement, and we look forward to moving forward with the board and Angie whenever she asks to give her whatever she asks for. So I hope that puts that all to rest, and thanks for your time. Appreciate it. You have questions?
I don't, I mean, unfortunately, as y'all know, the laws that are being passed every day now, that's just going to continue to get worse.
Well, and I think the one thing that, I struggle with personally is that every time we don't follow the statute, and let's say it's a $1,700 that we should be collecting, we only collect $100, it serves to really limit the funding of the courthouse. Because the money we collect is allocated to the general fund, to the state's attorney's office, to our automation fund. And inevitably, it limits the amount of money we put in to be able to pay for the people who run the courthouse. So we need to really try to do a better job of that. And this audit, this portion of my audit, or our audit, really is a reflection and an audit of the decision-making at the top, and it has absolutely nothing to do with it.
We understand that, I say it's gonna get worse.
The courts, we bargain down the rates. Can they go above the statute amount?
As far as I know, they can. I've seen it happen once. They can do that. They basically have the authority to do whatever they want. And this is me just guessing, is that the reason this is part of the audit requirements at the AOIC is that the AOIC, which again is the governing agency for us, the conduit between the Supreme Court, is they like to collect that data. They want to see in what courthouses are you following statute. And so unfortunately, their desire to have numbers reflects on my office's performance, and it's unfairly attached to our office's job, because we just don't have control. You can audit me on things I control, I just don't like being audited on things I can't control. So thank you, appreciate your time.
I have just
Sure.
one
I'm
moment.
sorry, yes.
The judge is privy to insinuating circumstances with John Doe.
Mhm.
It could be John Doe lost his job last year and his house is foreclosed on. It could be that he's in dire straits and he's privy to that information where your office isn't, so.
You're exactly right, and that's exactly true. The judges and the state's attorneys are allowed, and that's why they're in those positions. My contention here is not in standing in judgment of whether or not judges and state's attorneys should do that, because again, that isn't my purview. What I take issue with is that what our office is being judged by in an audit is the performance of someone else.
Right.
So if you give it to me and it says $100, I parse it out based on $100. I can't change an order. Now, I argue, because it's a little bit of my personality, when I see something that I don't think should be that way. But again, they have the trump card. I mean, that's why they're there.
I wish they had a little box on there, insinuating circumstances, they can X that and then send it to you.
Yeah, it wouldn't matter to me either way. Either
Yeah.
way we look at it, we are the keeper of the record, not the creator. So that's the most important point to make. We don't create them, we
I don't,
keep them.
especially this last year or two, has been hard on a lot of people.
And I can appreciate that. I
Yeah,
absolutely can
it's
appreciate
been
that.
terrible.
However, I can say this, and actually, no, I won't say that. I will just say that I think that we have to, as a collective agency and as representatives of Union County, do a better job of ensuring that we can make decisions as a collective that will benefit all members of the county, as opposed to just one particular member of the county that may have an extenuating experience. That's just my opinion on the matter. So, but hopefully, in years to come, when you see this, you won't be as concerned about it, because I explained it and so did Anna.
Hopefully John Doe get his job back and get back on.
Well, hopefully John Doe won't get hammered and drive down the road and a felony DUI. That'd be my hope.
It's his own fault.
I'm sorry that he's unemployed, but you probably shouldn't answer that with too much booze driving down the middle of the road that might hit my kid. I mean, that's sort of my opinion.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
that's
just what I'm
that
saying.
anyway.
So, okay, thank you so much.
Moving on, item G, acceptance of 2020 bond disclosure report. John, your turn.
All right. Handouts here, guys. I made enough, Angie.
You did.
Two extra. That's my copy with my notes. It's gonna sound like Angie may need a raise after I talk. I'm gonna again thank her, just like the last two people did, but, pretty much without her, we wouldn't be able to create this report, so. Angie, you've got bargaining chips now. So again, thank you very much for allowing me to be here. It's been a couple of years. As you guys well know, John Dezzetti with Audit Securities, we've assisted the county with the respective bond issues. The bond issue that built this facility, which we refinanced in 2019, if you recall, that ended up saving the county taxpayers over $2 million by lowering the interest rate. This report should be nothing new to you folks, and that it's a requirement with those respective issues, and that you need to file this information with the SEC's, MSRB's, MO website. Now, that's the alphabet soup, a lot of acronyms. The SEC is the Securities and Exchange Commission. MSRB is the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board. EMA stands for Electronic Municipal Market Access. There's no quiz after this, so don't feel the need to have to remember what I just said, but the moral of that is that's where this report is going, so that Angie is not FOIA'd for the information and loses time doing other things. That's the gist of this report. So within this report, or prior to going into it, I just wanted to refresh your memory that this report also supplements and does a nice job maintaining the county's A+ credit rating with Standard & Poor's, which is something you guys should feel really proud of. And this is also an assistance of my company year in and year out, in which we more or less create the report. It is your report to approve and sign off on, but again, we're assisting as an extension of your staff, more or less, with the report. Angie reviews it, Lee reviews it, you guys sign off on it, and then goes on that website where it's disseminated so that you are in compliance with the requirement, again, you entered into with those bond issues. So if you've got just a few short minutes, it's been a couple of years since I presented on this, there's a couple of key things I want to go over. Pages 2 and 3 are pretty self-explanatory. It gets into some general information about the county itself, what kind of government you have, what kind of services you provide, what kind of unions are present here, types of education, medical services. At the bottom of page 3, there's a good amount of socioeconomic information, population trends, median home values. You can see where that data has been today relative to where it was back in all the way down 1990. So it gives you a good trend line analysis of where those trends are with respect to Union County, Anna, Jonesboro, and our fine state of Illinois. If you turn to page 4, at the very top, median family income, you can see where those trends are. The belly of page 4 would be the unemployment rates, and then the bottom of page 4 would be your largest area of employers. That's just a general consensus of those within Union County. If you turn to page 5, here's where we get into the debt information. I'm going to fast forward to page 7 real quick. I wouldn't mind pulling to that page. Union County as a whole has a variety of other taxing bodies that overlap it, of which have debt. And what this chart on page 7 outlines is, for example, if you took at the very top Lake Egypt Fire Protection District, while it's not 100% within Union County, if you were to draw a perfect circle around the boundaries of Lake Egypt Water Protection District, or Fire Protection District, excuse me, how much of Union County overlaps their taxing boundaries? In other words, how much debt is responsible for Union County taxpayers that they have, right? And as we extrapolate the data, you can see the second column from the right, 0.03% of their debt, if they had any, they don't here now, but if they did, would be responsible of Union County taxpayers. And then you go down the list, if you look at Lick Creek School District, 100% of their district is paid by Union County taxpayers. But then if there's also some others here, like Cypress, District 64J, 2.89% of their debt is responsible by Union County taxpayers. So this information is really a pain in the ass to put together, to be blunt and frank. But again, it is kind of neat in the respect that you can see the other taxing bodies out there, the fire districts, the school districts that have debt, and then how much this county is responsible for paying, right? So that information is good in its own right, but then it's also used, if you pull back to page 5, the statement of long-term bond indebtedness of the county and pulled into this graph here. So we also look at the county's debt specifically to this building and the self-insurance bond from 2014, in addition to that debt we just talked about, which adds up to a little over $6.5 million. And then we extrapolate that over your population in your equalized assessed valuation, which is more or less the net worth of this county, and that's the analysis pulled on page 5. Okay. If you look at page 6 real quick, as a county in the state of Illinois, non-home rule county, which I think there's only one, Cook, you are subject to 2.875% of your EAD as your credit card limit, your debt limit, as you want to call it. So that would imply a figure of around $6.3 million. However, if debt is going to be issued and it's considered self-supporting or paid from revenues other than property taxes, you can exceed that credit card limit, or in other words, doesn't count against it. That's why the county still has roughly $11.5 million to pay on this building. Your debt limit's only 6.3. How do we get there? Well, because as you guys know, the sales tax is being used to repay the debt for this building, right? So that's the reason why you're able to go into that, which is very common. In fact, it's how bonds are issued today, more or less. So that's page 6. If you want to turn to page 8 real quick, here is a list of the P&I schedule, principal and interest for the remaining debt of the county, the 2014 series, which is paid off in 6 years, and then also the 2019 bonds, which again replaced the 2010 bonds we issued to build this facility. As a reminder, that sales tax is being collected at a clip, far greater than I think initial estimates. And there's been quite a substantial reserve being built currently, which my understanding may be used in the future to help repay this debt a lot quicker than 2042, where it's estimated to be paid off today. And if all things go accordingly and trends keep continuing to be at the pace they are, you could be looking to pay this off 7, 8, 9 years sooner based on today's estimates. So the overage or the additional collections you're receiving from that sales tax are a good thing. The reserve is being built and the debt will be paid off far quicker, which means more or less, in fact, interest paid on the bonds than originally estimated. So any questions on that at all? Okay, pages 9 through 11 is language regarding the property assessment tax information and how the assessments and equalization are factored here in Illinois. If you pull real quickly to the bottom of page 12, this is always an interesting chart. It's an analysis of the last 5 years of where the net worth or equalized assessed valuation of the county has been. And if you look at from 2016 to 2020, the county's EAV has grown by roughly 10%, or $17.9 million to be exact. And then from that total amount, where is that money coming from, or that net worth coming from? And so we break it down by property type, so farm, residential, commercial, industrial, and railroad. So you can look at where farm values were back in 2016 relative to where they are in 2020. You can see that's where the bulk of the assessment increases come from, roughly 10 million. And then residential making up the other roughly $6 to $7 million. Commercial, industrial, railroad has been rather stagnant, but again, that's consistent with other counties that we're finding today. So year over year, you're looking at about a 2 to 3% clip, which is very good. Hopefully that trend continues, which is more dollars coming into the county and values of properties increasing, which is a good thing. Page 13. The county's specific tax rate itself, the multiplier, being $1.40 on this year's 2021 collection. You can see where that's been, again, back to 2016, more or less flat, an increase of just 6 cents in the last 5 years. So kudos broken down. Where's the money going? Into the corporate fund, the IMRF fund, the county health, education expense. It's all broken down, right? All those multipliers divvied up. And that's really not something that a normal taxpayer would see on his or her bill, but here you can see exactly where that money is flowing into. Bottom part of page 13. What we do here is taking just random sample tax bill of someone living in Union County, and it's just perhaps this person lives up the road and 2 streets down. I don't know what the person's name is, but again, it's a random sample to give an idea to an investor of what is the total tax rate that person is paying who lives in Union County. Not only again to the county, but the school district, to the road district, to the village, to the city of Anna, and so forth. So what you're looking at in 2020, not only do you have the county's $1.40 tax rate listed at the top, but then also the road district, the hospital bond, the Anna school district tax rate. In total, roughly $8 is the multiplier that a normal person is paying here who lives in the city of Anna, okay? And prospectively, that is a pretty low multiplier, in my opinion. And for someone living in this part of the state, that multiplier is very good. It's very common to see, as we get a little bit farther east into Marion, that multiplier tax rate being up north of $10. So of course, that person living over there is paying a lot more taxes to those respective taxing bodies. So again, kudos to you guys for keeping that tax rate down. Page 14 and 15, page 14, your collection history. So of the amount of taxes you extend every year, how much of those are being collected? You're running about 100% clip, okay, which is very normal and a very good thing. No surprises there. The belly part of page 14 is your largest county taxpayers, Walmart being the biggest at less than 1%, which is good in an investor's eyes, because what they like to see is diversification. They don't want your largest taxpayer being 60% of your total EAB, right? Because then there's the chance or risk that that company may leave, which may result into possibly a financial crisis. So having your top 10 list be less than 10% is oftentimes seen as a very good thing. Here you're less than 5%. Okay, so that's a very diversified tax base in an investor's eyes. Turning to page 15 and 16, I'm going to piggyback a little bit on the auditors here. It's an unaudited audit that we've been provided, so the information you see here in the far right-hand side column of the balance sheet, the P&L of just the general fund may change. Again, these are based on FY20 audits, so this is ending November 30th of last year. Here we are 6-7 months past that. And then if you look to page 16, where the revenues and expenditures are tallied, again on a preliminary basis for the 2020 audit. Revenues appear to be up roughly 20%, expenditures down about 100 grand, which again leads to that roughly 20% increase in your cash from FY19 to FY20. Again, stressing preliminary, they may change, the audit is not final. Hopefully I'm not putting words in your mouth, but again, we need to include that because the report requires that it be included in. Okay, but again, that's why it says to the MSRB's EMA website. Again, the acronym, the quiz here, but that's where that portal is, and Angie knows as well versed on where that is at, so that she's not FOIA, and her time can be better spent on things you hired her to do. So, with that, are there any questions?
It'll be interesting to see some of these numbers next year, because our marijuana growing facility is going to change those ratios of who's paying most taxes.
It will change substantially.
And with most of the state, real estate in the county is absolutely non-existent. There is none hardly available for sale. People are waiting to buy homes. They're wanting to move to our county, and they're paying a significant more amount than what they were just 18 months ago for homes. So the valuation assessments that are put on by you and whatever else on the different values should see a significant change probably 22, 23, 24 ongoing.
Right.
It's kind of nice, but the county right now benefiting from COVID. There's a lot of people that want to get out of your area, the Chicago environment, and larger cities, and move back to the rural settings. And I think the census, unfortunately, that was done 18 months ago, will show a significant difference in the increase, but unfortunately, it's not going to show anywhere. Because there's just very few vacant homes, very few medium to moderate homes on the market.
Right. Well, where I live, just speaking loud, I live in LaSalle, or Peru, but LaSalle, Peru, kind of like Anna Jonesboro, which is 100 miles outside of Chicago, which is considered downstate, just so you guys are aware. I come from downtown Chicago. Maybe you know it.
Yeah, I know that. I used to go to meetings for like all my bankers, and the first guy came up, I'm from Southern Illinois, I live in Kankakee.
Yeah, exactly. But with that said, and to Dave's point, what we've been seeing in sales tax analysis, so generally the state, as you know, is about 3 months behind in their collection, so their disbursements, right? So if they're collecting it this month, they're gonna pay in August or September. We can see that trend, we can see the numbers coming from the state comptroller's website, and the data looks really good. People are still spending a lot of money. Now, where they're getting the money is another question that us here really maybe have an opinion on, but we can't answer. But they're spending it, which is a good thing. Now, also being said, we are seeing from a number of friends of mine, personal friends that are bankers, that deposits are through the roof. Bank accounts, people aren't overdrafting where they would have been 2 years ago, which in its own right is a good thing. People have money now, but again, those people more or less were given the money by the feds, and the feds want them to spend it. So those people really aren't spending it, they're doing the right thing and saving. So it'll be interesting to see when this tapering eventually occurs and the economy starts growing on its own feet and not pent up by the Fed through spending and printing money and creating money for that matter, where this economy ends up. And I think we're about 12 to 18 months from really figuring that out. The sun is going to be shining, in my opinion, for the next 9 to 12 months, after which we'll see slowly end up with that. But everything looks good so far in Union County, keep up the good work. I'm glad I was able to come down. It's been a couple of years, and hopefully I'll let him back next year.
We appreciate it, John, and I think that was an excellent report. You know, naysayers think Union County is falling apart and terrible, but, you know, if you can read and understand that, it's just the opposite.
Yeah.
Union County is doing good. I think a lot of that, well, just a lot of good people doing things, and including this board. So.
I agree, the numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
I would like to bring up, I'd be very interested in listening to you.
Sure.
Everything sounds good. Why is the population of Illinois per se dropping? And why have we went over the last several years from 22 seats in Congress, and we're going down to 17?
Well, you're getting political now, aren't you?
It's only one seat they're losing.
Yeah, I think
Losing
it's
one.
Always losing one seat.
the one.
In 1970, 1980, we had 22 seats.
They had 22 as well. It's 21 now.
Well, we're going down to 17, I believe.
I think it was just one.
Yeah, I believe it is too, and it's gonna be part of southern Illinois, it's gonna be
Yeah.
consolidated to where the seat will actually come out of.
I seats in the last 50 years.
Yeah, you're looking back 50 years, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're losing population. It means some of these other states are gaining population greater than we are.
Redistricting.
But we're losing seats and population. What, 75,000 people a year leave in Illinois, I believe. I mean, I travel every day going to Cape, and I constantly see U-Hauls heading west. You know, and on the property values yourselves, that's probably related to 2x4s going to $20 a piece. You know, it was what, $2 or $3. So in order to build a house now, or if you're going to sell it, you have to charge accordingly, whatever the market is.
You know, being involved in banking for as long as I was, I don't believe that that's the fact. Because, you know, today we didn't have building permits. I think people are wanting to get back to their roots in rural America, for which they've gone to the cities, and now they're trying to come back here, Darryl. I think population is growing while it's.
But we didn't have any building permits today.
That's right, which is a bad thing. We're not building homes, but people are still moving here. So our population, because is.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Look forward to seeing you
See you next year.
next year.
This time next year.
I make a motion that we accept the 2020 bond disclosure report as given.
I'll second that, and I think everybody
In here, and he's done a remarkable job, and it's going to be missed. I make a motion.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Pitts,
Yes.
Commissioner Gould.
Okay, last item, resolution filling vacancy in office of Union County Sheriff until such office is filled in the 2022 general election.
22 general election. Those are due back March 7th through the 4th, so that's when the filing dates will be. So Monday, March 7th at 8 a.m. is when we will start collecting those back. The vote by mail ballots that will be sent out overseas to service and all that will have to be sent out on May 14th for the primary election. Write-in candidates are due by April 28th. So if someone wants to be a write-in candidate, they'll have to have that into this office by April 28th. Early voting will start May 19th here in the courthouse. The new election date will be June 28th of 2022 for the primary election. November 8th will still be the general election date, and I don't know if you guys saw, but that is now a state holiday as well. So schools and other state facilities will be closed. Some of the other things that Bill, just to highlight, that has included in there, they included that we'll be doing curbside voting. Proud to say it, and even before I took over in office, we've been doing curbside voting for a long time. But that's officially now in there for people to vote curbside. What that means is if someone wants to vote early or at their precinct on election day, they notify us. We will then send 2 judges, one from each party, out to to the vehicle where the person's at, if they're not ambulatory or anything like that, any reason. Both judges will then present the application, be signed, and then we'll give them the ballot, they'll vote. And that's kind of where we're at. I'm looking probably at August, September to probably where we'll be to send those out. Hopefully, we know by then where we're at with all the district lines. So it's kind of the latest going on with the election stuff. If you guys have any questions, just let me know.
Good job.
Side note, I didn't say, if you call the order of things as far as these resignations, Angie will be sending a letter now on both.
Commissioner Pitts?
Yes.
Commissioner Gould?
Yes.